Hello, I'm Alex Davies, founder of Wealth Club. Today I'm with Andrew Wolfson, managing partner of Pembroke. Hello, Andrew.
Hi, Alex.
First off, just tell me a little bit about Pembroke and give me an introduction to yourself.
So Pembroke is part of the Oakley group of companies. Oakley are a private equity fund who currently have 1.5 billion euros under management and was established in 2002 by Peter Dubins. Peter has always been a serial entrepreneur, and I went to work for him back in 2009 to look after his private investments that sat outside his private equity fund. During the 3 years between 2009 and 2012, we found a lot of companies, a lot of founders wanting Peter's advice and his money and his access to his network. So we decided to set up a VCT in 2012-13. We have raised every year since then, and we have made 34 investments across both share classes, totaling 42 million, and our current assets under management are just over 56 million.
You're doing another fundraise this year. How much are you looking to raise and why? What are you going to invest in?
So we're raising in our B share class, and we're looking to raise 20 million with an over-allotment facility of 20 million. So we're looking to raise a total of 40 million. We are, at the moment, we are fully deployed. So all the opportunities we're seeing, we are raising money to be able to invest in those opportunities. And what I've done over the course of the last year is really bulk up on our team, much like we prescribe to our founders, so that we're well set to have a successful fundraise this year and be able to deploy the money we raise straight away into opportunities that we're being approached by.
So Andrew, can you give me a flavour, if I invest in the VCT today, what type of companies am I going to invest in, and can you give me some of the names of those companies?
Yeah, sure, Alex. We like backing businesses in health and fitness, fashion and accessories, hospitality, and media and technology. Some of the names you might have heard of in the hospitality world, we've got Five Guys and Chilango. We've got Boom Cycle, which David Lloyd has just become chairman of in health and fitness. We've got an investment in Boat International, the super yacht media business. And in fashion, we've got wonderful businesses. We've got M&M, which is a mid-market fashion brand, ladies fashion brand. We've got investments in Alexa Chung, who set up her own fashion label, and in Bella Freud, who's doing fantastically.
So a very sort of wide range of companies. What about your more recent investments? Do you want to talk me through some of the companies you've invested in over the last year or so?
I'll talk about the last three companies that we've invested in. One is a company called Popsa that was founded by three founders, Liam, Tom and Marcello, who all have very different parts of the business that they operate. Marcello is in finance, Tom is in IT, and Liam is in sales and marketing. And what Popsa does is it's in the photo book industry. So I don't know if you've ever made a photo book, but it can be a very long, laborious process. You've got all your photos on your iPhone or your mobile phone. You then download them into the cloud. You put them on a desktop, and then you drag and drop them in something. It took me about 4 hours to do it, although my children are much better than me. So what Popsa did is they really decided that actually the technology should be mobile first. So their technology reads all your camera roll as you take photos. It then puts them into a book for you. It suggests a book. It's got intelligent learning, so it learns. It's got facial recognition software, and it really does learn about you and the way you take photos and the way that we can then manage that process. But what I really liked about them was that they were advanced beyond their years as technology founders, because ultimately what they realized is that they have a business that is a book that is delivered to a customer. So it doesn't matter how good the technology is. If you get that logistics and the printing bit wrong, then you're not going to have a business. So what they did at a very early stage, in fact, before we came on as investors, is they got someone who has 30 years of experience in the print business to come on board as their non-executive chairman. And as a team, they have really delivered unbelievable numbers. So that's a very exciting business. We've invested in a business called N for Nursery, which is a nursery business, a nursery school business founded by Philip Sutherland. And what Philip realized is that although central London has a lot of expensive nursery provision. The reality is that the majority of people can't afford to live in central London. So he thought, well, there's this void of people going to live slightly in sort of outer London. So he set up a nursery in Stoke Newington. He set that up last year, opened in September, fully subscribed. He's now got another site that he's opening up, and he's got 2 more in legals. So again, a very exciting, simple idea delivered by an exceptional founder. And then another one we've invested in, which is in the hospitality sector, is a company called Secret Food Tours, which, again, 2 wonderful founders, Nico and Oliver, who really thought we want to put on an experiential tour within cities. So they started in London and Paris, and they have now built out to 29 cities, delivering experiential food tours for families or for individuals when they go and visit the city. And you end up in a group of 12 to 20 people being taken around a city by someone who takes you for a starter in one restaurant that otherwise you might not discover, and then a main course in another. So you really experience the culture, the food culture that city has to offer. So again, three very different but very exciting businesses.
And are there any particular investments in the portfolio, older ones, which you're particularly excited about?
Well, I got asked the other day, someone said to me, which is your favourite business? And I said that's a bit like asking which is my favourite of my 3 children. We've got a lot of businesses, and the founders who we've backed are really exceptional. I will list a few of the highlights. Plenish was a very early stage business we backed, who are a cold pressed juice provider. What I really like about Cara is that she wanted to get cold pressed juice. She wanted to make people healthier by drinking cold pressed organic juice. That market sort of plateaued a bit. A lot of new entrants came into the market. So she realized she had to innovate. She went into the dairy-free plant-based milk market. And the reason she did that is that there was one dominant player in the UK who owned over 80% of the market, and she thought it was much easier to take a significant chunk from one dominant player than it is to enter an already crowded space. She's in all the major multiples apart from one. She's doing absolutely fantastically. And again, it's really nice to back a founder who isn't afraid to pivot slightly. They don't say, well, that hasn't worked, and move on to the next thing. They say, right, what are we going to do? And that's really the sort of founders we want to back. The same can be said for Blaze, cycle light hire company, which has now been renamed Beryl. That started off as a cycle safety business, projecting, you might have seen them, the cycle lights that project a green laser onto the pavement, onto the road in front of you to give greater visibility. She's now turned into a data provider to cycle hire schemes. She's building out her own bikes to hire, and she's working with really top quality operators to be able to deliver this. One of our other investments is in the fashion world, Kat McConey, who is a shoe brand who has been doing really well, really tough industry to break into. She's got fantastic sales in the wholesale market, but she's now teamed up with a South Korean company who loved her brand, the bold colours of it. They put her on a shopping channel, and she had a 1-hour stint with 4 pairs of shoes. She sold over $1 million worth of shoes. They then realized that the South Korean market would like it. They're developing a range of makeup for her, and that's launching. So again, we back founders who aren't frightened to take opportunity that obviously clearly didn't exist in the initial business plan that we were presented with, but that's the sort of people we should be backing, people who aren't afraid to grow their businesses.
But a lot of the areas you're investing in, sort of consumer, retail, a lot in your portfolio, isn't that at this moment in time highly risky?
Well, I think again it comes down to the founder. I think there have been a number of high-profile failures, and what I would say is that if you have a large business but you forget how to innovate, and maybe the founder has since left the business, so whether it's a restaurant chain or whether it's a fashion brand, if you lose the ability to innovate and to engage with your consumers, it's going to be tough. And once you start to lose sales, it's very difficult to claw that back because you're already on a downward downward spiral. All of our businesses are continuing to take market share, not lose it. So although it might seem to be risky, I think as long as you stay fairly nimble and you can react to market trends. So one of our investments in the hospitality sector is a restaurant chain called Chung's. We've now got 4 sites that all operate in central London, but they're all slightly different. So we engage with the local community that are going to provide a restaurant. So price points are different. Some of the product is different. We now operate in the Zaha Hadid building in the Serpentine. And obviously when we get students coming to look at an art exhibition, it's a very different crowd than the ones who visit Harrods looking at buying a luxury item watch. So we have a price point that really looks at who the customer is.
And have you got any examples of where things haven't gone so well?
Well, we've had over the 5 years we've been doing this, we've had 4 businesses that we've exited. 3 of them have been administrations, and 1 of them was a sale to trade at a slight loss on cost. The reality is, what's important for me is that we are realistic about the companies we invest in. Nothing is going to go to plan all the time. And it's really, that's where I say it's about the founders. Do we have belief that when the founders come up against a hurdle or a challenge, that do they need more money? And is it sensible for us to put more money? If it is sensible, then we'll continue to back them. If it's not sensible, then sometimes we have to make tough decisions. Were the businesses wrong businesses to back? No, I don't think they were. There was a rationale for backing them, but sometimes things don't work out. And what we do is try and act responsibly and find a way for the founder to maybe take the business forward, but without us being involved.
So you've axed some of the weaklings. I understand you haven't had any major exits yet. Have you got them in the pipeline?
One of my bugbears actually is when, I've got a few. One of them is when I get presented with an early stage business plan, and towards the end of the deck I'll see exit opportunities, and it'll say IPO, trade, or private equity. And I'll say to them, well, there is a 4th. There is, of course, administration. I say it's slightly tongue-in-cheek, of course, but the reality is what founders should be focusing on is growing the business, controlling the costs, and taking opportunity. If they do that, exit opportunities will happen. So what we very much focus founders and management teams on is being able to do those 3 things. Now, obviously exits are closer than they were 4 years ago. We have a maturing portfolio. I think one of our interesting statistics is that when I look at the B share portfolio, there's 29 companies invested that we're invested in, and those 29 companies at the point of investment had under 500 employees and had an income of just under 30 million. Those same companies now have over 5,000 employees and an income of just under 200 million. So we are backing growth businesses. We are being courted by trade players in some of our businesses. But when do you take on a trade player investment? We've had offers from trade to invest in some of our businesses. We've actually, with the founders, decided that it's not the right time because we feel that it might limit exit opportunities at a later date. So, but there are definitely people who are starting to pay a serious interest in a number of the companies that we're invested in. So watch this space.
I will do. I'm going to invest in a VCT this year. Final question, why should I invest with you?
Well, good question. I think what I would say is that we have a maturing portfolio of 29 investments, and we are currently fully deployed out of funds. So your money will be put to work immediately in new opportunities that we're saying. And on that note, we are continuing to evaluate opportunities so that once we have a share allotment and get some money, we will instantly be deploying it. So your money will be put to work really very quickly rather than having a management fee on us holding cash. The portfolio, as I said, is definitely maturing, and we pay a 3p dividend. When we do get exits, we will be making special dividends. The management and directors of Pembroke are very much invested in the business. We have, as a team, we have around 4% investment in the business. And I think finally, and one of the things that I haven't really touched on today, is our transparency to the market, is that we don't charge our investors extra fees on what the annual management charge should pay for. It's one of the things that investee companies like about us and founders like about us, is that we get charged a management fee, or we charge the fund a management fee in order to manage the fund. And to manage a fund, you make investments, you carry out due diligence, you monitor those investments, you help the founders, you help them exit. You do all those things. That's what our 2% pays for. So we don't charge on top of the 2% monitoring fees, transaction fees, arrangement fees, non-executive director fees, and due diligence fees. It is one of the things that I think needs to be clarified within the industry slightly more, but I do think that it is, we are fully aligned with our investors on our success lies in our businesses being successful.
Andrew Wolfson of the Pembroke VCT, thank you very much.
Thank you.